Insights of All Trades podcast.
To answer your question as to like what we know about the gut-brain axis.
Mhm.
So
Is this with birds or with people or like just in general?
this is with like mice models.
Mice model. Okay.
Yeah. So the way that you can study the microbiome is you either have like a germ-free animal. So germ-free meaning that they're born in a sterile environment.
Okay.
So they have no microbiota whatsoever.
Hmm.
And they like supplement. So your microbiota.
So even with mice that are like born, through because they're mammals, like born from the mother.
Right. So with that, they actually like surgically remove them before
Okay.
they pass through the vaginal canal.
And don't let them touch the skin or anything.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. So they like basically they'll raise multiple generations to the
Okay.
point where then a female can birth a sterile mouse.
Interesting.
Yeah. So then,
Wow.
yeah. So then it's just like a simple comparison as to like how do these germ-free mice react to certain things versus, let's say, a mouse that has a normal microbiome.
Okay.
So it was this really crazy study that they had a germ-free mouse and it exhibited increased anxiety-like behaviors. It had higher circulating stress hormone levels. And then they took a particular type of, I believe it was lactococcus, so like a strain of bacteria, and they inoculated it, and it normalized the behavioral deficits and normalized the hormone levels.
How does that work? Like, that's
I don't
crazy.
know. Yeah. So I remember reading that paper. That's the paper that I read that like convinced me that there's this connection between gut microbiota and hormones. And it just blew my mind.
Do they know, or do you know, like the feedback of how the gut actually like feeds up to the brain?
Yeah. So there's a couple of mechanisms.
Okay.
So your gut bacteria can actually just naturally create neurotransmitters.
Okay.
So they can create serotonin, dopamine.
The bacteria are doing this?
Yeah.
Wow.
GABA. And then it travels up. So your vagus nerve.
Okay, yep.
It travels up to your vagus nerve, which then, so your vagus nerve kind of like intertwines.
So the neurotransmitters that these bacteria are making actually get taken up by nerve cells?
Yep.
And
so
then,
they get taken up by nerve cells and then they can travel the whole way to the brain. And then the way that, let's say, a hormone elicits a response is it's like a lock and key mechanism.
Okay, yep.
So you have receptors on your brain that are basically acting like the lock. And then the neurotransmitter comes in and it attaches to the receptor and then it basically unlocks it and then it elicits a response.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get a bunch of, say, like serotonin producing bacteria, shoots up your vagus nerve, and now there's more serotonin. And
Yeah. So that's the connection between. So it's really bizarre to think about like how could gut bacteria influence your mood?
Yeah.
It has to do with the chemical messengers that they produce. It's not like they're intentionally trying to manipulate host behavior, at least in humans. Insects are a different story.
We can get into that too if you want.
We could. I know a little bit about
Okay. Sounds good.
But it has to do with like the different chemicals and whatnot that the bacteria are just naturally producing when they're metabolizing.
Yeah.
And then it just travels up to your brain.
Yeah.
And so going back to like the short chain fatty acids. So short chain fatty acids that your microbiota extract from like dietary carbohydrates.
Okay.
They can actually travel up through the bloodstream to your brain. And then there's the blood-brain barrier and it can cross.
So is this... What's actually crossing? Is it like glucose or is it still the...
It's different types of short chain fatty acids.
Okay.
So it's like butyrate.
Okay, that's cool though. Because there's like the blood-brain barrier, right? But these, because they're fatty acid. Well, are they still acids? Like they're charged and everything, or can they just cross it?
Yeah. So there are, I forget the name of the kind of receptor, but there's certain receptors that are sitting right on the blood-brain barrier that the short chain fatty acids can go and they attach to.
Okay.
And then that's how they get through.
Okay. So they're not just like diffusing through.
No.
Okay. Gotcha.
No. You're like hitting onto receptors and then going through.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So that's how, there's just like this bidirectional.
So what happens once those fatty acids get into the brain? Are they created, like, are they like the building blocks for more neurotransmitters? How does that work?
They're like two separate mechanisms.
Okay.
Yeah. So the neurotransmitters are in their own category. Short chain fatty acids are more about affecting metabolism.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And what exactly happens, like the biochemistry of what happens to them in the brain, I have no clue.
I like that. that neurotransmitter, not theory, like it's been proven, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But that's so cool because like if gut bacteria are creating, let's like take serotonin again, for example, and putting that up in the brain, like the drugs that people take, the antidepressants that people take if they're depressed are serotonin modulators. So they're SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So that's creating more serotonin in your brain so that you can feel happier and not depressed.
Right.
But if your gut bacteria are creating this, that serotonin for you, and now you have more serotonin in your brain, you're going to be happier.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So my advisor just got a Department of Defense grant that we're working off of now, where we're taking what we learned from like stress physiology and microbiome being a subset of what we're learning. We're taking what we learned in birds, and then we're going to try and apply that to PTSD in soldiers.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So in August, I'm going down to the Department of Defense to give a presentation.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So that's why.
Where is that at?
It's at their headquarters in Arlington, Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's how you can take, let's say, this. One of the main questions I get is how can what you're learning in birds apply to humans? There's just like basic science where we're learning these things that are specific to birds, and that just like adds to science in general.
Sure, yeah.
But there's also the applied side where we can use birds as a tractable system. Like you can't go and manipulate humans the way that you can manipulate a bird.
Yeah, right.
So
it's got to start somewhere too.
Exactly, right. So that's why, I mean, pretty much all medical research has come from other kinds of model systems.
Yeah,
mice and whatnot. But birds represent like a really unique system because they're out in the wild.
Yeah.
So then we can apply what we know from them, because the stress response, and we're also learning that the gut bacteria are like evolutionary conserved across vertebrates.
Okay.
So we can take what we apply to birds and extrapolate it to humans.
Ah, okay. That's cool. So these gut bacteria have been a part of our evolutionary past for a long time.
Yeah, so it's crazy. You can like track our evolutionary origins. Your gut bacteria match.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's my answer to people that ask, why do I study birds? So
is this going to be one of the first projects that you guys are applying over to humans, or does your lab PI do a lot of that?
Yeah, it'll be one of the first. This
That's
is
cool.
like the first, like outside of the National Science Foundation, which is like primarily about basic research, and just new discoveries in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, this will be the first one where we're actually taking like an agency that's devoted to humans and using that money to study birds.